Hi guys, so in the previous example, kita dah tengok macam mana we want to solve annual series for compounded interest. Okay, this time around, we are still solving for annual series, tapi alamak, dia punya compound period block tu tak matching pula dengan payment period. Sudah. Macam mana nak buat ni? Okay, let's check it out. Solving for this kind of mismatch payment period and compound period, there are two policies that you can consider. The number one is that if we assume that interperiod between the cash flow to have no compounded interest, okay? Or the second one is if that interperiod has compound interest. So for the scope of our study, we will only look at the first policy. Okay, so in this example, a fund manager has generated cash flow shown in the figure. So this is actually a cash flow diagram for 1 year or 12 months. The cash flow is measured in 1,000 units lah. Maknanya every cash flow tu you kena multiply with $1,000. Okay, in the cash flow, sometimes there are outflow of cash at random times. Okay, so again, similarly, at random times, this company will also receive inflow of money, dapat funds lah, dapat duit, also at random times. Given that the interest rate is 12% per year and it is compounded quarterly, and the company uses a policy of no interperiod interest, they wanted to know what is the future worth of this cash flow diagram. So, the key word in this example is the no interperiod interest policy. Okay, when you encounter with this kind of policy, you can modify your cash flow so that the positive cash flow or the upward direction can be shifted to the beginning of the interest period, or the negative cash flow can be simply shifted to the end of the interest period. Okay, we'll see how we can do this. Okay, so we know that the interest is 12% per year, which are compounded quarterly. So let's just represent the compound period with colorful blocks. Okay, so kalau compound quarterly, meaning in 1 year there are 4 compound period or 4 blocks. Okay, let us just redraw a new cash flow diagram so that you can see the effect of no interperiod interest. Okay, and from the original cash flow, you observe for the cash flow which is situated in the middle of the compound period. Dia macam sesat, hilang arah dan tiada arah tuju. For example, this $90 and another $90. It is located in the middle of the compound period or the red colored blocks. Okay, so remember from the no interperiod policy, positive cash flow, we can simply shift it to the beginning of the compound period. So 90 dengan that another 90, we move it to month 6. Okay, and a total of $180. We just shift it to the beginning of the compound period, to the boundary of the block. Okay, tak boleh cross the boundary lah, just as long as it is within the block. That is what is meant by no interperiod interest, meaning as long as the cash flow shift within the compound period or within the block, the value remains the same. Okay, so how about that $120? It is situated exactly at the boundary between the red colored block and the pink colored block, so you can just remain as it is. But notice that $45 sesat di tengah jalan kan, di tengah block berwarna pink itu, so we can shift it to the beginning of the block. Okay, so 120 plus 45, it becomes 165. Okay, so now, let's look at the negative cash flow or the cash flow which are pointed downward. The $150, it is at the boundary of the block. So, you don't have to shift it lah. You can just remain as it is. So, $150 remain there. Okay, how about this $200 cash flow? Ia sesat di tengah-tengah blok berwarna kuning. So what you do with this negative cash flow? Okay, unlike the positive cash flow, for the negative cash flow, you have to shift it to the end of the compound period. Okay, so value tak berubah because there are no interperiod interest being charged. So as long as it shifts within the same block, the value remains the same. Okay, look at the $75 and $100 cash flow. Ia sesat di tengah-tengah blok berwarna orange. So you can shift it to the end of the block, which is situated at month 6. So total up lah, 100 plus $75, it will become $175. Okay, how about this $50 which happened at month 10? Yes, it is lost in the middle of the pink colored box. So what do? For negative cash flow, move it to the end of the compound period. Okay, so don't forget, we want to look for the future value, and all this value is in $1,000 unit. So more or less, this looks much more simpler to be solved, kan? Okay, now that our cash flow are simplified, it will be much easier for us to solve this kind of problem. Okay, so you know that the interest rate is 12% for 1 year, which is compounded quarterly. So in order to solve this problem, the first step is we have to calculate what is the effective interest rate for one compound period. So in this case, you can simply divide 12 divided with 4 compound period, and each period represents 3% interest rate. Okay, kita dah dapat our I. Okay, our N depends on the location of the cash flow diagram. Okay, now if you want to convert the $150 into equivalent future worth, we need to multiply it with the FP factor. And we know the N, the period from that $150 punya position sampai the F tu ada 4 blok. So the N is 4 payment period. Okay, so negative $150 multiplied with the FP factor at 3% interest rate for one block, and then the N is 4. And then if you want to convert the $200, again you have to multiply it with the FP factor. Remember, if it's pointed downwards, then it's negative sign. The I, we use the interest rate, which is 3%, and the and this time only 3 blocks are left, meaning there are 3 payment period. So our N is 3. Okay, now if you want to convert the $175, remember it is pointed downwards, so it is negative $175. And then again, the interest rate for one payment period is 3%, and the N is berapa blok tinggal? 2 blok sahaja. So the N is 2. Okay, now again at that same position, ada juga upward cash flow or positive cash flow at the value of $180. So that $180 you can convert to equivalent future worth by multiplying it with the FP factor. As it's pointed upward, then it have to be positive sign, and the interest rate remain lah 3% for one block, one payment period, and the N is 2. Okay, and the second last is the upward cash flow of $165. Similarly, multiply with the FP factor at 3% interest rate for per payment period, and the N is 1. Okay, so the N in this case is the number of blocks tau, bukan number of months ke apa, it's number of blocks. And finally, the $50 is pointed downward, so that is negative 50. Kenapa kita tak multiply with any conversion factor? Tak payahlah, because it's already at the final year that we want to calculate. We don't have to convert it anymore. Okay, so things are quite easy from here. Look for the conversion factor from the compound interest table, and you will get a value of negative $262.111. Okay, remember, this cash flow is in $1,000 unit, so you have to multiply the answer with $1,000, and the actual value of the investment is negative $262,111. Okay, dah siap. Okay, why don't you try this on your own and submit your answer in the forum tab provided. Okay, I'll count this as your attendance for this particular chapter. Okay, till then, see you in the next episode.